Hello, everybody, and welcome into another episode of the Couch GMs podcast. It's Thursday, July 17th, 2025. I'm your host, George Kirk, joined by the one and only Cody Roadcappin. Oh, is it glorious to be back, Cody?
It is, especially because we have teams showing up for training camp have kicked off. The Chargers have reported as they have the Hall of Fame game, so actual football is taking place. Lots of stuff have happened. It's been a nice 2 weeks off, but I'm happy to be back here talking with you, buddy.
Me too, and it is awesome hearing football is back soon, and the itch is finally getting scratched a little bit. We're jumping into fantasy season hard today, talking top 100 players, knocking out the first half today, getting us ready for our fantasy drafts coming up. I'm excited.
Absolutely. And on top of that, little teaser for next week's episode will be 1 month out from the Couch GMs World Cup. So we'll be doing a lot of content around that again this year, but some more news and notes about that coming up next week. So make sure you hit the subscribe so you don't miss an episode, especially as we get more into football season.
100%. Make sure you follow us at Couch GMs, Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok. Watch us live Thursday nights at 6:30 on Facebook and YouTube. You can also watch us on Spotify. Share, subscribe there as well if that's where you get your podcasts. And you can always comment on the show or DM us with any fantasy questions or football questions you got each week. Like you said, Cody, though, we missed 2 full weeks. So what's happening? I feel like we could have missed 2 or 3 weeks about a month ago, and it would have been like, nothing happened. Meanwhile, today we're building up this show, and we're like, if we don't go an hour and a half, I'd be surprised.
Yeah, we're going to try to keep it under an hour like typical, but on this one, no promises.
No promises. We'll try to rapid fire some news on you here. First off, what happened today? TJ Watt and the Steelers agreeing on a contract extension, making the highest paid edge, passing Myles Garrett, but also the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL. $41 million a year for TJ Watt, but well deserved.
Yeah, definitely. It was only a matter of time. I know there was some back in OTA's minicamp around the time we last recorded. There was like starting the rumblings. So could they trade him? Could they do this? Pittsburgh is definitely in a win now mode. They went after Aaron Rodgers. They traded for DK Metcalf. They need TJ Watt. He is the cornerstone of their defense. And that isn't even the only move that the Steelers have been making this offseason, even since we last talked. I mean, they also went out and traded for Jalen Ramsey. They went out and traded for Jonnu Smith to reunite him with Arthur Smith, their offensive coordinator. Yes, they gave up Minkah Fitzpatrick. All big moves. Again, that's just showing that they are in win now mode.
Yeah, that Steelers defense is going to be fired up and ready to go. See how Aaron Rodgers can work out on the offense, as he still has all of camp to get settled there. But the Steelers at least trying to make a legit push. We'll see if they just finish above 500 or can actually make it through a playoff run. Jets, on the other hand, are all signing some contract extensions. Strong rookie quarter, strong young corner, Sauce Gardner, and wide receiver Garrett Wilson, both signing contract extensions with Jets. I believe Sauce is in the top 2 or 3 in cornerback contracts. Garrett Wilson gets a solid contract, but I know he hasn't shown quite as much with the quarterback uncertainty as some people expected, but he's still a solid cornerstone piece for them on the offense.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting because of, last year, like with the whole Aaron Rodgers to bring him back up in this again, but, they brought in Allen Lazard, Devontae Adams for him, and it kind of felt like Garrett Wilson was like the odd man out, and I think as fantasy players, we felt that as well. He would have some okay weeks, but he wasn't that guy that he was in his rookie year when him and Sauce Gardner won, rookie of the year on their side of the ball. But I think he can get back to form. He's playing with a former college quarterback in Justin Fields this year. We all know that Fields isn't the elite passer, but Garrett Wilson was able to put up numbers before Aaron Rodgers got there, even with guys like Tim Boyle and Zach Wilson. I think he could be a piece for Justin Fields to really lean on this year, and I think he could be in for a big season. And he's a guy I've been targeting a lot, or I would be targeting in fantasy drafts, especially because he's going much later than he has been accustomed to the last 2 seasons.
I think a lot of it is what kind of faith you have in that quarterback with Justin Fields there, but the fact that they've played together before is hopefully a good sign. And he did actually have some very great moments with Aaron Rodgers last year. I mean, he had catch of the year last year with that toe touch in the back of the end zone. So it's not like he completely disappeared, but not having Davante Adams to compete with this year should be a boost for Garrett Wilson's value in fantasy.
Definitely agree with that one. But, talking wide receivers, also today, Mike Williams, he was going to start the season on PUP for the Los Angeles Chargers, but instead has informed the team that he plans to retire. So another former Jets wide receiver not in the room for Garrett Wilson, not going to be anywhere as he decided to hang it up. And I feel like he is a guy that we've never actually got to see his full potential. Just injuries after injuries. When he was healthy, he was a really solid player, especially in his early days in Los Angeles. But definitely surprised that he's retiring after only 8 seasons, but I guess those injuries have just caught up to him.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's got to be injuries because last year he never really got traction with it. He had setbacks in the offseason from what it sounded like. You hear then he's probably going to be back for camp. And then I think there was even another setback. It's hard to see a career go like that. We only really saw one season from him, and there was so much potential. But best wishes to Mike Williams in retirement.
Definitely. And then sticking with the Chargers, Najee Harris, their free agent running back acquisition, had a little bit too much fun on July 4th.
Hibbins.
You check out. Yep, not the mic. I think I'm back. But you can check out Beans on YouTube, or we're talking about Najee Harris, who had too much fun on July 4th and got an injury from some fireworks. He's going to start the season on NFI, which is basically PUP, but a non-football injury. That's what it stands for. But they're expecting him to be back sometime in training camp. So it doesn't seem like he should affect your drafts too much there.
No, but gives a chance for the rookie to get a little bit of a head start in camp, and we'll see how it shakes out through training camp and the preseason. Chiefs working some deals on the offensive line. They signed guard Trey Smith to the highest paid interior lineman contract in history. It goes along with they did extend Creed Humphrey earlier in the offseason, so they realized the importance of protecting Patrick Mahomes after that Super Bowl. And I think that's exactly what happened the last time when they lost the Super Bowl to Tom Brady, and it was basically because of pressure.
Yeah, honestly, the interesting thing about this time is not the it's that they re-signed the internal players, their best 2 players on the offensive line. They haven't really they did get Josh Simmons this NFL draft, which could be an impact at left tackle, which they need, and they still have Juwan Taylor, which is, despite he's one of the highest paid offensive linemen in the league still to this day. So they've invested a lot in that offensive line, and you've seen keeping Patrick Mahomes healthy and upright is a big part of their success. So like what the Chiefs are doing there as well.
100%. Speaking of edge pressure, Miller, the top edge left on the board, he signs with the Washington Commanders as they continue to try to buy in on veteran pieces, have the experience to go around the young core on offense. I think it's a good fit, and it's somebody who should make a difference for them, but he's not somebody who's going to play every single snap anymore at this point in his career.
Yeah, honestly, maybe this is a hot take. This move doesn't change anything for me. Like, I don't think it. I think he's, former elite, future Hall of Famer. But I think after the multiple ACL injuries, it is just Father Time has caught up to him a little bit. He'll make a splash play, I'm sure, at some point in the season. But I think he could be taken advantage of more than he'll do well. But he'll be a third down pass specialist, and maybe Dan Quaid can unlock something out of him. But for me, it doesn't move the needle at all.
Maybe doesn't move the needle too much, but I feel like it can't hurt to bring in a solid veteran presence on that defense at position. We've seen how edge rushers can make a difference playing a few snaps in the past. So he's not somebody that has to play every single down to actually make a difference.
Yeah, I mean, we know he's not going to play any, every down, but I mean, he didn't have much of an impact in Buffalo either. That's, I guess, where I'm going at as well. Like, people are saying, like,
injuries were starting to catch up to him as well. It's a point.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm like, we saw this in Buffalo. They brought him in to be a guy. Injuries caught up to him. He couldn't stay healthy. Washington's doing the same thing. Veteran presence, locker room, him, Bobby Wagner, like they have elite top end locker room guys for sure. How much does it make an impact on the if you tell me by like week 8 he's like a healthy scratch inactive, would not be surprised.
That's a point. That's a good point. We'll see how it works out for the Commanders, but one of the bigger moves that you can make at this point in the offseason. Chicago Bears, they signed GM Ryan Poles to a contract extension through 2029 as they win the offseason for, what is it, the second or third straight year. But we'll see if they actually can win in the regular season this time.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. But they pair their GM with their new head coach. So, I guess some GMs don't have to win games to keep their job. I don't really know, but shout out to Ryan Poles for getting that contract extension. And just a reminder for any new fans, new listeners out there, coaches, GMs contract that has no impact on the salary cap or anything like that. So,
yes, good call there. Speaking of GM, then Steelers also gave their GM Omar Khan a 3-year contract extension as he's been wheeling and dealing. That goes along with their trades with Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith that we mentioned already.
For sure, but let's stay in the AFC North. Talking new stadiums. The Cincinnati Bengals, they got some, improvement to make improvements to their stadium, stay in Cincinnati. That was a talk earlier in this offseason. But the big news is Cleveland. Sounds like they're getting a new stadium. No timeline or release dates yet, but something to pay attention to. They're going to get $600 million from the state of Ohio to build a stadium. But the big factor of this one is first AFC North team with a dome. And that's where I have to have this little micro debate with you, because I feel like we might be on the same page. But should every team have a dome? I'll just ask it that way.
I think no. And I mean, this is a conversation I've heard a lot of because there's also rumors that the Eagles are going to either add a roof onto Lincoln Financial Field or move into a dome themselves because they want to host a Super Bowl. And I don't know if that's part of Cleveland's idea either. But I feel like for the fan experience, and I don't know if it's going to be a hot take or not, because a lot of fans don't like sitting outside in 20-degree weather and snow, which is understandable, or even rain. But I feel like it takes something away from the game when you have a team in the snow. Plus, it's an advantage when you're a team from up north, like Cleveland, like Philadelphia, like Green Bay, when you can be like, we got Tampa Bay coming up north used to that 60 degrees this time of year, and they got to go play in 20 degrees and wind. You're losing that advantage that you have as a team playing from the north if you don't.
Yeah, I know why they're doing it. Like you said, a lot of teams are going towards domes because of the extracurriculars that they can make money for as, player salaries go up, coaches' salaries go up. These owners, they make their money to pay those out of, using their facility more than 8 times a year for home games, right? So, like, I get that, Philadelphia, I don't see Philadelphia ever putting a roof on, at most similar to what Buffalo did. But, like, if Super Bowl is the ultimate goal, they're going to have to put a roof on because it's too cold for them to, like, Miami, they'll play Super Bowl out there, but it's Florida in February. They're not going to come to Pennsylvania. So I'd keep domes off as many stadiums, especially in like the historic ones, like a Green Bay. Like Green Bay should never have a dome, in my opinion. Like that just doesn't make sense. Buffalo would be another one in there as well.
Props to Buffalo for not making a dome, by the way, and just kind of like half covering. I was a fan of that. I'm interested to see what Chicago is going to do because there's a new stadium coming to Chicago at some point. And I don't know if they're going to dome it or not. It sounds like
they're going dome.
I feel like Washington is going dome as well, from what I understand, as they are close to a deal for a stadium as well.
Yeah, Washington going for a dome. That will be, Chicago, same thing. Super Bowl aspirations, maybe because their teams will never be there, but that's a different conversation for a different day.
Cody said it, not me. I'm okay with that.
Right. Just, out there talking.
And as we move towards fantasy season, a couple of legal situations to monitor. I'll start with one that's earlier on. Quinshawn Judkins, the rookie running back for the Browns, he was arrested. Doesn't seem like a lot's going to come out of that this season, or not soon, but something to keep an eye on as we move closer to fantasy season.
The interesting thing with that is he's also unsigned. Like 28 of now, I think 2 have signed in the last 2 days, but 28 of the second round picks, because the whole guaranteed thing, because the Houston Texans gave why am I blanking on Jaden Higgins, which was the 34th pick, a fully guaranteed contract. So now all the second round picks are holding out for as much guarantee as possible. So Junkins, who was, a couple picks after him, is unsigned at this point. We'll see how that plays a factor into this situation as well. And then both Jordan Addison and Rashee Rice, they, for different issues, obviously, they have both been, sentenced or given their punishment by the legal system, which typically determines that the NFL can then give out their suspension. Jordan Addison has a base of 3-game suspension based on his reckless driving that turned into something else in the whole legal jargon, which I don't have to get into. And then Rashee Rice, TBD on how much he can be.
It seemed more serious than Jordan Addison's pretty significantly. And it was punishment in the legal system was too. So at least wanted to ask you with the Rashee Rice situation, like assume Addison gets 3 games because his is pretty straightforward baseline in the CBA. What do you think Rashee Rice's window of suspension opportunity is?
I'm gonna guess he gets suspended for 8 games, appeals it down to 6. That's gonna be my kind of guess on where he's at. And again, that's just complete speculation. But in terms of like fantasy drafts in this upcoming season, like he is definitely going to take a hit in the rankings. He wasn't like super high anyways because he's coming off an injury plus 2. But he'll get to those mid rounds where like the value might be worth taking him, just because of when he does come back. Treat it like a player that's coming off a PUP or starts the season on IR, returning later kind of thing.
Exactly. Excuse me. Sorry. Getting off a cold here. I got a little bit of a scratchy throat, but yeah, I was going to say between 6 and 8 games as well. So I think that's how I'm attacking it at this point. And hopefully we get some clarity before we get into peak fantasy draft season. But just to give everybody out there an idea, he is still in our fantasy top 100 and he is not in today's show. So give you an idea of where you think he might fall or rankings as we get towards fantasy season.
Yeah. And honestly, obviously if it comes out and we get surprised and it's a 1-year suspension or
12 games. It goes to 12 games. Yeah.
I'd say if it goes up to 12 games, something like that, obviously we would adjust then. But right now we're kind of I assume we're in that same mindset. Probably 8 appealed down to 6, maybe 6 appealed down to 4, but I would think it's closer to the first option. But there's a lot to get unraveled and get worked out over the coming weeks in that situation. But one more piece of news, which honestly might have been the most surprising thing for me since we've been back. But and we're going to bring it up a little bit too with we talked about the legal stuff. Let's end on a high note. Darren Waller comes out of retirement and gets traded to the Miami Dolphins the day after they traded Jonnu Smith. Jonnu Smith had one heck of a season last year with the Miami Dolphins. So now it's like, well, Darren Waller wasn't that great the last time he played. He took a year off, but like they value the tight end so much, and they got this guy to come out of retirement. Like, should I start thinking about Darren Waller in my fantasy drafts, or is he a late round flyer tight end that could be a league winner? We'll have to wait and see.
Late round flyer tight end possibility. And I know he actually had some issues and took a year off between college and the NFL, if I'm remembering correctly. So he's taken a year off, come back and been successful before, albeit not at 31 years old or however old he is now. But it's definitely worth noting that the Dolphins seem to want to get a tight end involved, and Darren Waller at least has the track record in the past of being a viable fantasy option.
For sure. But I think that's all the news that we missed or has happened in the last 2 weeks since we have not recorded an episode. So we're about 20 minutes in. So if you've made it this far through the news, thank you. If we missed anything or you want our thoughts on it, you could definitely drop a comment or shoot us a DM. We'd be happy to answer it. But now it is time for our top 100 fantasy players of 2025. George, do you want to tell the people what this list is?
Yes, sir. So Cody and I have individually ranked our top 100 players for the upcoming season. So we're basically talking straight, take everybody in the player pool and rank them 1 to 100 on who we would want to have on our fantasy team. With it being fantasy, they're going to see a lot of the tight ends aren't going to be in the top 10, quarterbacks aren't going to be in the top 10 kind of situation, because we're kind of looking at this as if we were going into a fantasy draft, this is who we would take in order 1 to 100. Today we're going to be doing 100 to 51, knocking out that first half of the list. Next week we'll do 50 to 26, and then we'll wrap up 25 to 1 in 3 weeks.
Yes, that is what we're doing. Similar to what the NFL does with their top 100, but ours is based on this upcoming year, not last season. And like George said, this is more of another way of looking at it, is kind of like our average draft position for each one of these players too, if you want to take it in terms of a fantasy context as well. But George, why don't you hit the people with our 100 through, and we're going to go in groups of 10, so 100 to 91.
Let's do it. And let's see if this works, or if I have to drop the overlay. There we go. 100 to 91. Can we just read down the 10 here, and then we'll talk about whoever we want to here?
Yep.
All right. Who's listening? 100 is Michael Pittman, wide receiver for the Colts. We got Najee Harris at 99, Cooper Kupp 98, Quinshon Judkins still makes the top 100 at 97, Travis Etienne, formerly in the top 20 in a lot of situations, at 96, Dak Prescott at 95, Juwan Jennings 94, 93 is David Njoku, and then Tucker Kraft at 92, and Ricky Pearsall at 91. So we mentioned Najee Harris potentially starting the season injured, but it seems like he can be back. He still makes the list here, and Quinshon Judkins, someone we talked about already today too, still makes the top 100.
Yeah, I think the biggest surprise for me is how far Michael Pittman has fallen. So I want to ask you, because just looking at this, you had him at 99, I had him at 104. The averaged him out to 100. That's how we got the final number. Kind of can see how the system works. If you knew which quarterback was starting, how much would that change in either direction?
See, it's actually funny because you're like, I'm interested in how far it fell. And I was looking at a lot of consensus rankings after you and I put together our rankings, and Michael Pittman in consensus rankings is actually around 111. We're actually more bullish on Michael Pittman than the average fantasy analyst. But I think it wouldn't change too much knowing the quarterback, because me looking at it myself, I'm thinking Daniel Jones versus Anthony Richardson. I'm not super confident in either. If there was like a situation where it's like, oh, are the Steelers going to sign Aaron Rodgers, or are we starting a rookie? That was a bigger difference.
I gotcha. Yeah, for me, the quarterback didn't play too much into a factor of it. I think Michael Pittman is like a really good player. I know Josh Downs got more work with Anthony Richardson, where I think Michael Pittman might be more of a focus guy with a Daniel Jones. So maybe he does go up slightly for me if Jones is named the starter. But yeah, a guy that used to be drafted, top 20 down here at 100 was a big surprise for me when I did the list. And even when I was filling out, I was like, nope, I like this guy more. I like this guy more. I like this guy more. So definitely a big name. Cooper Kupp, another one, but age kind of plays a factor.
Funny also, just before you move too far, Josh Downs was the number one honorable mention at 101, by the way.
Yep. So we're in lockstep. One of them. We have to get one of the starting wide receivers there. Which one would it be? I'm looking over that top list right now, and honestly, we're within a couple spots on most of them. On our biggest wow, Cody, say your words properly. Now I don't even want to try. So the
discrepancy.
Thank you. David Njoku, I had him as 89. You had him 95. He ends up as 93 on the list based on averages. So And that could probably just be tight end value for you, I would assume.
It's tight end value plus it's tight end on a new team. Like we're talking down a couple other tight ends in this offseason where it's like tight end on a new team. I already don't like this situation. So,
Or what do you? Is David Njoku is definitely on Cleveland? Is he not?
yeah, you wrote it wrong. Thank you. Well, that's fixed. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, he's
that
still
was
on
your
Cleveland.
fault. So that's
fault.
an error. There we go.
Hey, got to have one error. And,
yeah.
What's life without a couple errors? Yes, you got confused with Evan Ingram.
I did.
Dude, I'm not good with typing at all. So, sure, cool.
But anyway, tight end value even yet it doesn't move the needle on me on Njoku anyway.
Yeah, and we both had Evan Ingram, who is actually at 106, or actually on Denver at 106, if anyone's keeping track at home. But you want to go to 90 to 81? I think unless there's any other guys you want. Actually, before you do,
okay.
Juwan Jennings requested a contract or a trade. So that is something to point out as well. There. So wanted to throw that out there.
It's interesting too, because we're going to use this. I'm going to use this as the transition into 90 to 81, because you mentioned there's Juwan Jennings there. We also saw Ricky Pearsall there. And if you look at number 90, Brandon Ayuk makes the list. So all three San Francisco wide receivers in that range. It's one of those like pick your favorite and hope kind of situations like we've seen in Green Bay in the last few years.
And honestly, I think if we like re-looked at this list at the end of the season, one of them will be much higher. I think it's just very hard to predict which one it's going to be. Is it Ricky Pearsall, who had a really good end of the season? Is it Brandon Ayuk coming off of an injury and a big contract? Or is it Juwan Jennings if he gets paid? Or maybe he even gets the opportunity to go somewhere else. But I think it's still going to be Brandon Ayuk. Maybe, but I understand he's had such an up and down roller coaster season or career, I should say, in San Francisco. So I could see it that way. But to finish out, coming off the ACL for sure. But to finish out the 90 through 81, so 90 is Brandon Ayuk, 89 is Bo Nix, Khalil Shakur is 88, Tyrone Tracy Jr. is 87, Deebo Samuel, former 49ers wide receiver, is 86, Javonte Williams for Dallas at 85, Jaden Reed for the Green Bay Packers at 84, Jaylen Warren at 83 for the Pittsburgh Steelers, Jacoby Myers for the Las Vegas Raiders, and then Travis Hunter for the Jacksonville Jaguars at 81. And for him, if I knew he was playing wide receiver only, I might have him higher. But if he's going to still try to play both ways, I just can't fully buy him to being both. Like, I think he has the potential to do it, but the top wide receiver and a top corner has me a little bit concerned, and I pushed him down the board for that reason.
Oh, exactly. Because there's no way he's going to be able to play every single snap on both sides of the ball. So he can play wide receiver amazing. But if he's only going to get 50% of the snaps on offense, it's going to lower his value just for that reason.
Yeah. And honestly, like, I'm looking at our numbers comparing for the first time, like live on the air for anyone that is watching. George and I we literally made our own list. We didn't talk about it at all until today when we put them in a thing. And now I'm looking at the actual numbers. And basically every one of these guys were within 2 picks of each other. So there's not even much discrepancy. So we're in lockstep on that as well.
Biggest discrepancy in this 10 is Travis Hunter. You had him at 78, I had him at 83, which at this point, that's not that far off.
Yeah, for sure. And honestly, like we were talking about this as again, a little bit pre-show, like this is our top 100. We gave a definitive number, but we definitely abide by like the tier system. And so like, if you wanted to talk me into Brandon Ayuk being all the way up at 81 and Travis Hunter down at 90, I could have that conversation. I could even probably have it in the next 10 as well, as we are in these later rounds. And that's another reason why we're doing 50 today, because these 50 are a lot closer than the next 50.
Exactly. And we never know if we're going to jump off of these rankings because we're drafting positions in fantasy drafts or such. But it was still good to be able to look at everybody and kind of break it down and be like, I kind of like this guy better than this guy. But there's certain situations where you might draft opposite that, whether you're drafting for upside or consistency, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm good to move on to the next 10 if you are.
All right, let me cue it up right here. 80 to 71. There we are. Starting off with number 80 is Caleb Johnson, the rookie running back in Pittsburgh. We got Rome Odunze at 79. Jordan Addison, who we mentioned earlier on the show, at 78. 77, Travion Henderson, rookie running back in New England. Then Brian Robinson for Washington. 75 is Chris Godwin. Isaiah Pacheco falls in at 74. Travis Kelce down at 73. Another one of the mighty have fallen there. Mark Andrews at 72 and Baker Mayfield at 71.
Yeah, a lot of things to unpack there. Isaiah Pacheco being at 74 as a lead running back. I don't know, maybe I was thinking about this. Maybe I'm too low on him just in general. Maybe I'm letting some of those injuries from last year lean into this because he's been solid. Maybe it's still the presence of Kareem Hunt. I'm not 100% sure. But Isaiah Pacheco is the guy that screams on this list. I definitely think he could outperform this draft spot, would be a guy like Isaiah Pacheco.
Agreed, because the opportunity should be there. I think the biggest thing is just Kansas City's offense in general was not great last year. You're hoping they get it together. We'll see what happens with Rashee Rice if they have him back as a true wide receiver one as well. But there's a lot of potential out there as long as he stays healthy and the offense gets back towards its normal form. You can say the exact same thing about Travis Kelce being able to outperform his ranking here as well. But we got to worry about his father time catching up with him because that was the first we really saw the cracks start to form with Travis Kelce. And he's probably in his last season in the NFL, more than likely.
Yeah, his contract, that's a good point. His contract is up this year. If he wanted,
he teased retirement last year already.
Yeah. I mean, so did his brother, and then his brother played 3 more seasons too. So, like, I think if depending on how they do, like if they go out on top, if the Chiefs win the Super Bowl, which I know everybody in the comments is now like, bros, don't even put that out there. No one wants to see the Chiefs win the Super Bowl again. We're done with that. I think the retirement is a no question. If they get close and he wants to do one more year, I mean, Kansas City will bring him back in a heartbeat, kind of go year by year if he wants to, but we'll have to wait and see with him. But yeah, and then Rome Odunze, I still really like. I put him, where I did. So I'm not reaching out, but he's a guy that I really like as potential to break out in year 2. With a guy like Ben Johnson, if he plays kind of that bigger slot role and can do some stuff outside, similar to like an Amon-Ra St. Brown, if he becomes more of the focal point. I still think it's going to be DJ Moore this upcoming season. You'll see when we talk about DJ Moore later. But he's a guy I'm keeping an eye on.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting guys just in this section with, Rome Odunze. We have to see if there's a step taken. Caleb Johnson, we're interested in what the split's going to be in Pittsburgh. Chris Godwin, is he going to miss time with the injury? Is he going to come back and need some time to get back up to speed? We mentioned Pacheco, Kelce. This is just a very interesting section of 10.
No, for sure. And it's also interesting to note that we both have, or our consensus ranking has Caleb Johnson higher than Jaylen Warren. So we're assuming Caleb Johnson gets the start.
I'm thinking even if it's like he gets first and second, Warren gets third, you're hoping he gets more opportunity. It's a better half of the split. There's going to be a split.
No, for sure. And they're both very close in our rankings as well. Again, another one of them will probably outperform it, but we're going to put both of these guys down here.
Yes. Are we good to move on to 70 to 61?
I am.
All right. 70 to 61, loading up now. Number 70, Denver rookie running back RJ Harvey. Then we got Kyler Murray at 69, DeAndre Swift 68, Titans running back Tony Pollard at 67, TJ Hawkinson makes another tight end appearance at 66, Calvin Ridley for the Titans at 65, Chris Olave 64, rookie receiver for the Panthers Tet McMillan makes 63, 62 Jerry Jeudy, and George Pickens, who should be in Dallas. There's another mistake we made there. Congratulations, me. 61.
That one was you.
That one was me.
That one was you. And maybe that's why you don't respect him as much as I do, because I think he might be our biggest discrepancy up to date. 9 spots different. I have him all the way up at 54. You have him down at, so what's 63, I guess. So that's kind of where he fell. Him and then Jerry Jeudy. He's another guy. Like, he finished top 12 last year as a fantasy wide receiver, and he's down here at 62 because we just don't believe, or was that only because he struggled so much when it wasn't Jameis Winston, but like, he showed that he can be an elite guy. He had an incredible run up until Jameis Winston got benched those last couple weeks. But Jerry Jeudy is definitely a guy to watch. Maybe the quarterback situation as well, like Joe Flacco, Dylan Gabriel, Kenny Pickett, Shador
Sanders, yeah.
Yeah, he maybe none of them, say, hey, we believe in that guy to get Jerry Jeudy back to the top, but a guy that just came off a top 12 wide receiver season all the way down here in the 60s is kind of surprising to me, although we both did it. We both put him there.
We both put him. Yeah, I mean, you had him at 62, I had him at 61. So it's not like he was any different on either of our boards. Quarterback situations by having this low. There's upside there. There's potential. I can say the same thing about Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley's had some great wide receiver fit in his career. They have a rookie quarterback in Tennessee. He could outperform that 65th ranking, no problem. But we don't know because of the uncertainty. So I think, and then Chris Olave is even another one. If you just want to throw in there, like Chris Olave has the upside now that he doesn't have, a quarterback that's gotten him hurt trying to throw up hospital balls so much, as like Thomas likes to say. But he doesn't have a quarterback either. So there's a wide receiver potential. I didn't even mention George Pickens, who, he's on Dallas. He has a better quarterback than he's had maybe in Pittsburgh. Last time I saw a Dallas wide receiver 2 be that great in fantasy. It's been a while. There's a lot of potential at wide receiver in 65 to 61. There's just a lot of question marks too.
Yeah, I knew I'd be higher on George Pickens. He was one of my guys. We did that segment a couple weeks back, which you can go back and listen to anytime you want. But yeah, then we get some running backs in the top half of the 60s. Tony Pollard, interesting name to watch. He had a pretty decent season last year, but then Tajay Spears came on strong as well. So, but with that, I think I'm good to move from to 60 to 51.
All right. 60 to 51. Number 60, Xavier Worthy. We'll see how much he can benefit from potential suspension for Rashee Rice. We got Aaron Jones in Minnesota, 59. Jameson Williams, 58. Jalen Waddle at 57. Patrick Mahomes makes an appearance at 56. Sam Laporta at 55. Devontae Smith at 54. Omarion Hampton, the rookie running back for the Chargers, at 53. David Montgomery at 52. And wrapping up today's rankings is Zay Flowers at 51. Interesting names to talk about here too, so I'll let you start.
Yeah, I think this is where you start to get into, like, you can see this is a lot of, wide receiver 2 action. You got Devonta Smith, you got Jalen Waddle, you have Jameson Williams, and then you could even throw in Xavier Worthy, typically, depending on how you view the Rashee Rice situation. And maybe even, I think Zay Flowers is the one. Like, I don't think Rashad Bateman's on our list. But he got
they have DeAndre Hopkins there as well now.
Yeah, which also I don't think is on our list.
No.
But, a guy that's just high variance, I think, is the way to put that. And then you have your Lions guys and your rookies. But for me, the one that Xavier Worthy, again, the variance is what scared me. I think we have a pretty big discrepancy on him as well. I think you actually have him all the way up at 53. So...
Mm-hmm. And you have him down at 66.
Yeah, so 13 differential. Spots. So that will be the highest, I'm pretty sure, on this day. But yeah, if you saw it. He had 2 touchdowns in the Super Bowl. He has all the speed. Him and Jameson Williams, so I'm pretty sure I had pretty close. I think they're going to have big games, and then they're going to have no-show games. And that's kind of why they're just a little bit lower for me, but solid flex plays, just hit them on the right weeks.
Yeah, exactly. You can say that about pretty much everybody at the wide receiver position in this spot. of us have Marion Hampton rated higher than Najee Harris, and that's nothing to do with the injury even. I think that's just we're expecting Hampton to be the starter and get the bulk of the carries in LA.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And like the injury didn't move Najee Harris for me, and it didn't move Omari Hampton for me, but it gave me more confidence in Omari Hampton, if that makes any sense.
You're more likely to make the stretch from Marion Hampton earlier in the draft than you are to sit back and be like, I'll just take Najee Harris later.
Exactly.
I got you there. Laporta is interesting just because he was one of the up and coming tight ends when he was a rookie last year. It felt like he had a very rough year, but when it all averaged out in the end, he still was a top 7 tight end. So he's somebody who you might be able to sit back on, get some decent value on around this part of the draft.
Yeah, and honestly, like again, this is where it's like this isn't the ranking of the players. It's more of draft positions as you were drafting. Because 55, if you're in a 10-man league, you're in the middle of round 5. That doesn't sound bad for a guy like
6.
Sam Laporta. Yeah, I guess you're right. The middle of round 6. So,
yep.
Round 5 and 12-man leagues. Like that's not a terrible spot to get a Sam Laporta. You might even get him round 6 or 7, depending on how your league drafts tight ends or what the scoring system is. But so I think that's a good fit for him. And then Patrick Mahomes, he was definitely a tougher one to place. I had him even 2 spots lower than you did in our individual rankings, but he averaged out to 56. And honestly, like he's still a guy that if the offense wakes up and Xavier Worthy, if Travis Kelce bounces back, Xavier Worthy becomes that deep threat and more consistent player. Like if you told me Patrick Mahomes had a 50 touchdown season and ended back as quarterback 1, he still has that capability in my mind. But I think it's, there's some better fantasy options out there. But if we were ranking the position themselves, I'm still taking Patrick as the top quarterback in the league right now.
Yeah, we're not talking fantasy. I think and we actually did rank our quarterbacks earlier in the season. So if you guys want to check that out, make sure you go back and check out that episode from, I think it was like May. But no, Mahomes just had a question because of what happened last year. And I do think them sputtering for the majority of last year and then going out the way they did in the Super Bowl has probably moved a lot of those Chiefs further down the list than maybe they should be. Could be a team where you're still looking at one of the top teams and probably one of the higher up end offenses in the league that you're actually going to find value in this year. So while I've been, like the consensus pushing him down, it actually is probably a team you're going to end up finding good value in fantasy when it comes to where they finish versus where they're drafted. As opposed to the past, maybe they got pushed too far up boards and they weren't good value because people were overdrafting them.
Yeah, I think that is, a good way to look at it. Do you have the capability to run through the list one more time? We'll just read the names.
I do. I ask you one more question here before we do that.
Yeah,
I wanted to touch on David Montgomery a little closer because obviously he was in that near 50-50 split for a long time with Jahmyr Gibbs. Injury happened last year. Gibbs had even more of a breakout than he had in the past. Now, a lot of people are just questioning, is David Montgomery still going to be a flexible RB2 kind of player? Or is that split going to go a lot more towards Jahmyr Gibbs now?
Yeah, I think that it might not be true 50-50, but I think if we're doing anything, we're doing 60-40, right? Like it's not much of a difference. And I think Gibbs will still be the more explosive one, but I think David Montgomery at a 52 spot, again, that 5th round, 12-man, the 6th round, beginning of the 6th round for 10-man, like if you go no wide or if you go no running back strat, or you take a quarterback and a tight end early and you end up with a draft with David Montgomery as your regular starting RB2, like I don't think you're in a bad spot at all. Like I still like David Montgomery, but there is just a slight adjustment for expecting a little bit more boost out of Jahmyr Gibbs.
And it's interesting to me because I'd really have to look back and see where we're drafting David Montgomery in the past few years, but I feel like 52 has got to be fairly accurate to where he was over the last 2 to 3 seasons. But I think it's because he was still being underdrafted for those last few years. And now we're just kind of being like, oh, well, keep him at that baseline. And even if he drops off a little bit, he's still going to be a good value at 52.
Yeah, I think we're now going into year 3 of, okay, Jahmyr Gibbs is going to take over. And the Lions have shown that they like David Montgomery. They gave him a contract extension last season. So it's not like he's going anywhere anytime soon. So I think solid value. And again, a top 60 player in fantasy football is still a starter majority of the week. So it's not just by being at 52, it's not like we're saying he's a bad player in any way, shape, or form.
Agreed. Okay, so we're on the same page with him, like I expected, but I know I've seen a lot of that going around, so I wanted to mention it. I'm gonna pull up the graphics one more time and do a little run through. Do you want to switch back and forth on announcing them here, Cody?
Yeah, we can do that.
All right, so I'll start us off with 100 to 91. Just to recap, 100 was Michael Pittman, 99 Najee Harris, 98 Cooper Kupp, 97 Quinshawn Judkins, 96 Travis Etienne, 95 was Dak Prescott, 94 Jawan Jennings, 93 David Njoku, 92 was Tucker Kraft, and 91 was Ricky Pearsall. And then here we go, Cody.
Alrighty, 90 through 81. We have Brandon Ayuk at 90, Bo Nix at 89, Khalil Shakur at 88. 87 is Tyrone Tracy Jr. Let me pronounce his name right. At 87. 86 is Deebo Samuel. 85, Javonte Williams. Starting running back that low. We didn't talk about that, but that's some good value right there, even though if it is the Dallas Cowboys. Jaden Reed at 84, Jaylen Warren at 83, Jacoby Myers at 82, and Travis Hunter at 81.
Moving on, 82-71. Number 80 was Caleb Johnson, 79 Roma Dunze, 78 Jordan Addison, 77 Travion Henderson, 76 Brian Robinson Jr., 75 Chris Godwin, 74 Isaiah Pacheco, 73 Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews at 72, and Baker Mayfield at 71.
Then we got 70 through 61. RJ Harvey, the rookie running back at 70. Kyler Murray at 69. Nice. 68, DeAndre Swift. 67, Tony Pollard. 66, TJ Hawkinson. 65, Calvin Ridley. 64, Chris Olave. 63, Tet McMillan. 62, Jerry Jeudy. And 61, George Pickens.
And then round us out, number 60 was Xavier Worthy, 59 Aaron Jones, 58 Jamison Williams, 57 Jalen Waddle, Patrick Mahomes at 56, Sam Laporte at 55, 54 Devontae Smith, 53 Omarion Hampton, 52 David Montgomery, and 51 Zay Flowers.
Awesome. And we did it. We kept it under an hour, which is actually really impressive to get through 50 names. But before we jumped out of here, kind of on the spot, did want to give you an opportunity. If there's any guys that are sitting right outside your top 100 that you wanted to give a shout out to, if you don't have to, but just wanted to give you a quick opportunity to give any honorable mentions that you see fit.
We already mentioned Josh Downs sitting down there, and I'm glad we mentioned it just because him and Michael Pittman, a lot of people are like, I don't know which way it's going to go. So somebody that's sitting down there, I'll take your spotlight away and be like, I'm the only reason Jordan Love was not in our top 100.
Yes, you
really
are.
tried hard.
Well, I think it's also interesting. So for full transparency, outside of we did top 110 because we knew we'd have different rankings and we wanted to have some wiggle room. 6 of the 110 are six players of 101 to 110 are quarterbacks. Maybe that's just us being a little bit light because we love late round quarterbacks and just going to show the value there. Where typically they're the guys that are at the top of all these lists that you see during the offseason. So I thought that was interesting that 6 quarterbacks just missed the top 100, but I think there will be some good value in drafts coming up.
I think so too. And then I'll just give a shout out to the guy that I snuck on to the final 110, Darnell Mooney. Question marks at quarterback in Atlanta, but he had a very underrated season last year. So we'll see if he can reproduce it. And he's somebody I'm kind of looking at towards late rounds of fantasy drafts.
No, I like that as well. But George, anything else you want to hit on before we get out of here?
No, make sure to stay tuned next week for some more on the list and to see how the Couch Jams World Cup is going to shake up for year 3. Whether you're in it or not, it's going to be entertaining, and I'm looking forward to jumping into that and all these other fantasy drafts coming up with you soon.
Yes, definitely. Like George mentioned, next week, 50 through 26, Couch Jams World Cup. Then we have the final top 25, and then a bunch of fantasy drafts. And then we're back twice a week, talking all things football, doing a lot of fun things here. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcasts. Hit the bells, get notified when we post new episodes. Follow us on social media, and feel free to hit us up with questions anytime. We'll be happy to answer them. I'm Cody Roadcap. That's George Kurt, and we'll talk to you all next week.